Hello and welcome to another sleep-inducing episode of Dreamy News. I'm your host Clevia, and as always, I aim to help you drift off into a blissful sleep by reading you the latest news from the world of sports. If ever I can't find a sports story for you, I may branch out into financial news or real estate news. Or, if I get desperate for a topic, maybe even celebrity news. Anything to help you fall asleep, dear people. As always, a disclaimer. I know nothing about sports or sleep science, so I cannot guarantee that you will learn anything about sports or that you will fall asleep. Nevertheless, I recommend that you take a few deep, relaxing breaths and sit down, perhaps even lie down, before listening to this episode. Close your eyes and prepare to relax. Today, we are combining the world of sports with the world of celebrities, in that I'll be telling you all about perhaps the most famous surfing woman in the world, Stephanie Gilmore. The article I'll read to you today is from the online edition of the Sydney Morning Herald and is titled Mozambique, Iceland and the Unknown. What happens when the GOAT takes a year off? For those who don't know, GOAT stands for Greatest of All Time. The article was written by Dan Walsh on 31 March 2024. So, sit down, relax, and if you're ready, we'll start. Mozambique, Iceland, and the Unknown. What happens when the GOAT takes a year off? For the first time in months, Steph Gilmore did the age-old traveller's dance, first coined by Columbus when he left his travel documents on the wrong side of the Atlantic. Where's my passport? Hang on, I don't need it, she says with a laugh. I've basically had my passport on me for 2 decades. I haven't done anything without it. Since winning the first of her record 8 world titles in her 2007 rookie campaign, the greatest female surfer of all time has spent the majority of each year living out of a suitcase and a board bag. Gilmore's competitive sabbatical, announced just weeks before this year's Pro Tour kicked off, has kept her on home soil, tucked into Coolangatta barrels with the passport in the top drawer, since late last year. But one of the richest and longest sponsorship deals in Australian women's sporting history will fill Gilmore's little blue travel book with stamps from the unlikeliest surf destinations imaginable. Mozambique again, Ireland, Iceland, anywhere you care to throw a dart and a professional surfer along the West African coast, or the continent's east coast for that matter. Gilmore will turn 37 when she returns to the Pro Tour next year, but her multi-million-dollar 8-year deal with Rip Curl was signed with the next phase of her professional life and the company's most fabled concept, the search, her overwhelming priority. As one of Australian sport's most marketable women for more than a decade, Gilmore's previous primary sponsorships with Roxy have been for about $1 million a year. Her return to Rip Curl earlier this month will keep her on the books into her mid-40s and has been described by the company, surfing industry figures, and the woman herself as historic, given the prospect of at least a $6 million commitment at a conservative estimate being outlaid for someone nearer to the end of their competition days than the start. The core component is Rip Curl's significant investments in sending its surfers where Columbus could only have dreamed of under the Search banner to discover new, untouched waves. Gilmore was along for the ride during her first decade-long stint with the iconic brand, touring remote parts of the Mentawai Islands with Tyler Wright, Bethany Hamilton, and Alana Blanchard for an all-female surf film that simply wouldn't have existed a generation earlier. Ask any surfer. We all love competing, winning, and trophies, sure. But I'd say what every surfer loves most is finding waves, taking that adventure on, and the stories along the way, Gilmore says. I don't know what I've done in a past life because I'm so lucky with where I've been able to go through surfing. My favorite places have been surfing in Iceland and Norway, going to Mozambique and meeting Mozambique's first ever female surfer. Things like that get etched into your brain. There's so many female surfers around the world, so it just feels perfect to bring a woman onto the search team. We want to show people just how much we adore surfing. 6mm wetsuits, icebergs, and untouched glass faces of the Arctic hold serious appeal. But Gilmore has long been drawn to the mother continent as well, investing time and energy into several African ventures over the years. Her 2009 pursuit of untouched waves in Mozambique with Stab magazine introduced Gilmore to Julia Fernando, widely regarded as the first woman in the country to get wax beneath her feet. She's done so since, on the board Gilmore gave her, earning a Roxy sponsorship, fronting the Surfers Not Street Children charity, and crossing paths with the Australian champion in South Africa again since. And as for discovering God's next gift to surfing, Mick Fanning's iconic search trip to a 5-kilometre long beach break surfed by 4 people on the entire planet in 2017 proved the trigger for Gilmore. So Mick went off hunting the snake wave, right? Gilmore explains. It's in Africa somewhere. I couldn't tell you if it's even East or West Africa. For the record, Fanning lied like Judas to keep the wave's coordinates a state secret. Everywhere from Ghana to Morocco has been speculated as a location, and it's still yet to get out. Mick scored these perfect waves, and I think they even photoshopped the background to keep it hidden, Gilmore says. But the video went wild, and I'm watching it thinking, that's what I want to do. For a while now, I've been thinking about what I can or want to give to surfing. Titles and competitions aside, I want to show people surfing and have them fall in love with it. Whether that's watching great footage and films or meeting me when I travel to these new places. The cool thing is, you think every wave must have been surfed already. But in reality, there's endless waves. The ocean changes. An earthquake in Indonesia can shift a reef, and you never know where we're going to end up. Fiji, the Pacific, cold places like Scotland and Ireland. I'd love to go back to Iceland. Africa, of course, holds special appeal. Titles and competitions have been put aside, but only briefly. Watching the very first event of the WSL season. With her jaw on her living room floor, confirmed that Gilmore will be back in 2025. The next generation of women surfing rewrote the book in a historic Pipeline Pro final on Hawaii's North Shore in February. Rising Australian star Molly Picklum rode the first perfect 10 at one of the heaviest waves in the world. 18-year-old American Katie Simmers then beat her in the final, with Gilmore among the surfing royalty lauding it as a game-changing day for women surfing at the time. Where that day sat in the history of our sport, that's a moment you want to be involved in, Gilmore says. I had my jaw on the floor. I wish I was there. I wish I was a part of it. That was the first reminder I still love competing. I love that feeling of I've got to put on a show. You might be out of your comfort zone, but then you might make history too. I was so proud of women surfing in that moment. All the girls surfed so well, and they broke new ground out there. But it was good to know that those competitive juices are still there for me. Pro surfing sabbaticals are not exactly new. Kelly Slater is 52 and still pushing a hip held together with part of a cadaver through heats. Of his 11 world titles, 5 came after a 4-year break for the tour before he returned at the age of 30. His last championship came 3 months short of his 40th birthday. But when conversation with Picklum turns to the Queen of Surfing, she offers with a smile that gives way to sincerity, ask Steph how she's going to do it. No, seriously. It's incredible what she's done her whole career for 17 years. So ask how she's going to go about coming back. It's a fair question, Gilmore says with a laugh. Every event I watch, the girls surf so well, and that question could be there every time. How are you going to come back? In saying that, in 2021 I had an okay year, but I only won one event. I lost in the first heat of the finals, and I remember saying to myself, can I still do this? Then 2022 came around, and there I was on the podium at the end with her record-breaking 8th world title. That reminded me that I can compete if the desire's there. And, if anything, seeing Molly and the young girls coming through fuels the fire for me. From here on though, anything is a bit of a bonus for me competitively, so the pressure is on them. And as for those other pressures that land on any 30-something, oh yeah, I'm moving into my next phase. Struggling musician, she cracks. Gilmore is an avid music fan and accomplished guitarist, having made on-stage cameos alongside Taylor Hawkins, Foo Fighters, Bernard Fanning, Powderfinger, Cram, Spiderbait, Jimmy Buffett and the Sunny Boys. She can see herself scoring soundtracks to surf movies once I've gone and got the waves first. But the prospect of settling down to domestic life and a family comes last in the conversation for a reason. Family is something to consider for sure, she says. But right now, I want to keep adventuring and see what the world's got to offer without the family just yet. We'll see. I'm open to it for sure. It's not my main focus though. Travelling with board bags is enough. I can't imagine having all the baby stuff too. That's it for today, lovely people. I hope you're all asleep, and even if you're not asleep, I hope you enjoyed this little break. Happy dreams, everyone, and thank you for listening to episode 4 of Dreamy News with Clevia. My production team consists of my son Carl. Thank you, darling. You will find links to today's news story in the show notes below. When you wake up, if you enjoyed this episode, please like and share it. Comment and subscribe if you'd like to. Thank you.